Hi, I'm Christopher Walker with Closely Observed Literature, and in this review I'm going to talk about The Notebook by Agota Kristof. So I always thought it was a nom de plume actually, because I thought that's too much like Agatha Christie, surely. Agota Kristof. But no, she was a Hungarian, born in 1935. She died in 2011. Sorry, I'm sneaking glances at my notes because I'm not very good at remembering things. This book was published in the late 1980s, and it was the first part in a trilogy. I've read the trilogy, and I'll come back to this in a moment. The thing I want to say about the trilogy is that after reading this, the rest of the trilogy was something of a letdown, and I'll explain why in a moment. But in terms of the plot, the idea here in this book is that two young boys, very young, are taken by their mother to live with the grandmother because war is raging. The woman thinks that they're not safe with her in the city. She also probably wants to continue affairs because the father is dead and everything like this. So it has a very dark beginning. You know, the abandonment of two young boys by their mother is not very happy. So the boys are called Klaus and Lucas, which you'll immediately recognize as being anagrammatic. You just change the letters, so I don't want to spoil what happens in the later books in the series, but you kind of get an idea that something's going on there. But the reason that the second two books in the trilogy were such a disappointment to me, I don't know if it was because of the translation. The translation by Alan Sheridan is excellent, and it's from the French, by the way. It's not from Hungarian into English, it's from French to English, because Kristof wrote in French. The translation is very nice, and the language here is so spare. I mean, this is a book that you can read in a day. It's 160 pages long. The chapters last that much usually, and there's just this Hemingway style of like, get it down to nothing and then that's enough. I'll give you an example. So this is early on. So the boys have arrived and their life with their grandmother isn't so wonderful, so they need to do something to fix that. So this chapter is called Exercise to Toughen the Body. Grandmother often hits us with her bony hands, a broom or a damp cloth. She pulls our ears and catches us by the hair. Other people also hit and kick us. We don't even know why. The blows hurt and make us cry. Falls, scratches, cuts, work, cold and heat can also cause pain. We decide to toughen our bodies in order to be able to bear pain without crying. We start by hitting and then punching one another. Seeing our swollen faces, grandmother asks, "Who did that to you?" "We did, grandmother." "You had a fight? Why?" "For nothing, grandmother. Don't worry, it's only an exercise." "An exercise? You're crazy." "Oh well, if that's your idea of fun." We are naked. We hit one another with a belt. At each blow we say, "It doesn't hurt." We hit harder, harder and harder. We put our hands over a flame. We cut our thighs, our arms and chests with a knife and pour alcohol onto our wounds. Each time we say, "It doesn't hurt." After a while, in fact, we no longer feel anything. It's someone else who is hurt, someone else who gets burnt, cut and feels pain. We don't cry anymore. When grandmother is angry and shouts at us, we say, "Stop shouting, grandmother. Hit us instead." When she hits us, we say, "More, grandmother. Look, we are turning the other cheek as it is written in the Bible. Strike the other cheek, grandmother." She answers, "May the devil take you with your Bible in your cheeks." So it's that kind of language, and it really, it's so sharp. It hits you hard. The story itself hits you hard, and I think the reason for that is that there is no morality in the story as such. You know, bad things happen to good people, good things happen to bad people, and nobody says this is not the way it should be. It's simply presented as the way that life is, especially when there is a war. So the driving impetus of the novel then is really for these two young boys to survive what they're going through, and in the end to escape to potentially a better life. Whether or not they achieve that will come later. So it's a chilling book, and when I've given it to people to read, if they do read it, they bring it back and you can see there's a kind of haunted look in their eyes because they don't necessarily like what they've read. They shouldn't like it. And I'll tell you the most recent modern equivalent. I mean, there's only like 20 years separating the two, I suppose, maybe less. Fight Club. Chuck Palahniuk. The way that that was written, the way that Fight Club was written, makes me think that maybe he'd read this as well. I tried to emulate this myself, not the topic as such, but certainly the pared down prose. And my goodness, it's difficult. It's really difficult to have the self-discipline to use such spare language. You know, there are so many times where you want a sentence to go on longer so you can put more information into it. You have to cut it back and say, no, I'm going to have a short sentence here. I'm going to do that. I mean, let's not go crazy and become James Ellroy, but still, you get the idea. So if you want something that's a bit dark and a bit disturbing, then this is it. Thank you, and see you next time.